I think one of the big discoveries in behavioral science in the last few decades is just how malleable human nature is across the lifespan. So we've always known that babies, are doing a lot of developing and like a lot of like modeling, and that their brains were extremely malleable. And that's why it was so important that we invest in early childhood. That's held up over time, by the way. But then there were discoveries about adolescence. Some scientists consider adolescence to be a second sensitive period for development. There's like lots of plasticity going on in the brain at that time. And if any of us recall being teenagers, those questions of wrestling with your identity and sometimes taking kind of abrupt turns in like the direction that we were heading. But what about the rest of us, right, who are no longer babies, no longer toddlers, and no longer teenagers? So across the lifespan, there's remarkable plasticity. There's not only neuronal growth, which continues throughout the adult lifespan, but also just the kind of remodeling of the synapses and connections. But if you don't, fancy neuroscience is the definitive evidence, and I don't. I think there's also studies of personality and character over long periods of time, and people do change. They become more or less extroverted. They become more or less confident, and your grit is just like all those other characteristics. So then you could ask the question, are there any research studies on whether you can intentionally change your personality and your character? Because just knowing that it changes isn't enough. You want to know that you can voluntarily direct that change. And I think here we have two sources of scientific evidence that say yes. One is research on therapy, because if you think about therapy, like therapy, one-on-one sessions with a psychologist, I mean, that is an intervention, right? And you could ask the question, like, do people change in any kind of enduring way? Like, are they still, or are they, have they retained those changes that they maybe make in therapy? And is there any evidence that their personalities change in ways that they want to, maybe 6 months or later after having finished therapy? And the answer is yes. And because therapy is relatively common, like there are big studies and lots of data to suggest that therapy can change you in ways that you want. And then the second kind of data is that there are these random assignment interventions where people try to change their personality. Like they want to be more conscientious, they want to be more happy, they want to be more open to experience, they want to be fill in the blank. And the data are very promising that people can actually set goals to change an aspect of their personality and character and make some advances. So last thing I'll say about this is I don't want to like paint the picture that you can snap your fingers and become a completely different person overnight. But the theme here is that no matter how old you are, I'm 52, like if I really wanted to be, more dependable, more empathic, more patient, more curious, more gritty. I could change any of those things if I wanted to.